Is it true that note taking on paper is actually better than note taking on a laptop or an iPad? Let's see. So there's a study done by two people called Mueller and Oppenheimer. And to evaluate this theory, the studies included hundreds of people from Princeton and UCLA. Keep in mind, this is in America. Okay. And they ranged the topics from bats, bread, algorithms, faith, respiration, and economics. So the two good things is there's a large sample size and there's a range of topics. Now, in a previous study, there was a study conducted at the University of Tokyo by a neuroscientist called Sakai, right, who did a similar study. However, it wasn't really ranged and there was only 48 participants. So this study kind of conducts this in a much better setting. Okay. So they conducted this experiment where basically during the kind of lectures, they had students with laptops note taking and students with paper note taking. And their theory is basically that people on laptops type more, right? More of what the, say, lecturer or teacher is saying, and therefore they're kind of mindlessly typing due to the fast typing speed. They kind of just type in everything that the teacher is saying and the lecturer is saying. So they kind of can conclude that it's almost like an autopilot response. Whereas people on paper, they can't really, write really fast. So what they have to do is they have to listen attentively and then summarize what the teacher or lecturer is saying into their own words, which kind of shows that there's a more uh, kind of complex memory taking compared to the autopilot person on the laptop just writing down everything that's happening. The Christmas, the ice cream truck outside. I might go get some in a sec. Anyways, so basically they conducted this experiment and there was no Wi-Fi, so there was no possible chance to be distracted by emails and other distractions. And basically, they said they kind of proved through, doing it with Wi-Fi that about 40% of the time they would be more distracted with laptops if like Wi-Fi was enabled in a normal college setting, of course, or university setting. So they also concluded that when told not to be distracted by emails and other distractions, they still, on their laptop, got distracted as if they were never warned about it. So it kind of proves that being taking notes on laptops is not the most efficient way of taking notes and memorizing. Okay, so another thing is that there's been a statistic that says that about roughly 60% were distracted for half of the class. Okay, and 90%, nearly 90% of laptop users engaged in online activities unrelated to the actual coursework for at least 5 minutes, of course. Now, can we fully conclude that this study is, perfect? Of course not. Sure, the sample size is huge and the theory stands to be kind of logical, but there has been no other kind of proven statistic apart from the fact that, out of Wi Fi, there hasn't really been conducted like a proper test, like a proper study with Wi Fi, and they're giving out a statistic without really saying how that kind of worked. So that can't be really concluded. But another thing that can actually be concluded is the fact that after um, taking these notes, about an hour after taking these notes, these students were tested on what basically happened. And the people who took notes on paper rather than laptop showed significant more memory retention compared to people with laptop. So this conclusion can be followed. But then they also concluded that in a normal setting, where tests usually are conducted in a month's time or 2 weeks' time or a week's time, that laptop users would be worse. But this isn't actually proven. So they have good evidence for the actual study, but they're kind of pushing it to say like, yeah, this is also what's going to happen in the future, which we can't really conclude. So based on this study, I can kind of follow that yes, in fact, paper is better, but is it significantly better? Can't really conclude. So that's my take. I know it's kind of strange why I'm making this video rather than how mistakes I made on paper 2020. Um, the reason I'm making this video is because there's a lot of people pushing claims that, oh yeah, this study done this and this, which proves this and this, but it turns out like these studies sometimes aren't really packed up, or their sample size is too small or things like that. I remember watching one study talking about like, oh yeah, fear on people skydiving compared to people, sweat on people skydiving compared to sweat on people who just normally sweat. When participants smell it, yeah, apparently like they get this like shock, but the study is not very good, and it's like such a small sample size. So people really depend on studies to actually prove their point. When people try to prove their point with these studies, and they kind of give this study without really mentioning much of the evidence that people tend to believe in. You want truth nowadays. You know what I mean? So, regarding this study, I might do like a series about this. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is my take on it. This is a raw video, by the way, so I might just upload it raw. I can't really be asked making it in edit. I got too many exams.